Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India and Mauritius elevate ties to comprehensive strategic partnership. Both sides signed 4 MOUs in science and technology, oceanography, administrative training and telemetry. Making every possible effort to deal with the recent unrest, says Nepal's President Prasar Bharati. Talks between young protesters and army on to choose the new interim leader. Poland says UN Security Council will meet on alleged Russian drone incursions. Moscow dismisses the Western rhetoric about its drones in Polish airspace. And hunt for the shooter who killed 31-year-old US conservative political analyst Charlie Kirk in Utah continues. President Trump blames radical left for the incident, calls it a dark moment for America. Prime Minister Narendra Modi hosted his Mauritian counterpart Naveen Chandra Ramagulam in the holy city of Varanasi today. Both the leaders held bilateral talks, further strengthening civilizational connect, spiritual bond and deep-rooted people-to-people ties that have shaped the special and unique relationship between India and Mauritius. Reaffirming shared vision for peace and prosperity in the Indian Ocean region and for the global south, leaders of India and Mauritius held delegation-level talks today. Both sides comprehensively reviewed the enhanced strategic partnership between India and Mauritius and identified new opportunities to deepen collaboration across sectors of mutual interest that will drive shared prosperity for both countries, their peoples and the region. India and Mauritius inked several agreements in Varanasi today. The pacts include Memorandum of Understanding on Cooperation in the Field of Science and Technology, agreement between CSIR, National Institute of Oceanography, and Mauritius Oceanography Institute, MOU between Karma Yogi Bharat and Administrative Reforms of Mauritius, cooperation in the field of power sector, MOU on Indian grant assistance for implementation of the second phase of small development projects. Other agreements included the renewal of agreement in the field of hydrography, cooperation in the field of space, and cooperation in the establishment of telemetry. Addressing the press statement along with the Mauritian counterpart, Prime Minister Narendra Modi stressed ancient ties between the two countries, adding that Mauritius is an important pillar of India's neighborhood first policy and the Vision Ocean.
आज हमने मॉरिशस की आवश्यकताओं और प्राथमिकताओं को ध्यान में रखते हुए एक स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक पैकेज पर निर्णय लिया है। यह इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मजबूत करेगा, रोजगार के नए अवसर पैदा करेगा और स्वास्थ्य सुविधाओं को सुदृढ़ करेगा। हम चागोस मरीन प्रोटेक्ट एरिया, एसएसआर इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट के एटीसी टावर तथा हाईवे और रिंग रोड के विस्तार जैसी परियोजनाओं को भी आगे बढ़ाएंगे। दिस पैकेज इज नॉट एन असिस्टेंस, इट इज एन इन्वेस्टमेंट in our shared future.
Prime Minister Modi also said that India is helping Mauritius in its renewable energy transition.
मॉरिशस में यूपीआई और रुपे कार्ड की शुरुआत हुई। अब हम लोकल करेंसी में व्यापार को सक्षम करने की दिशा में काम करेंगे। ऊर्जा सुरक्षा हमारी भागीदारी का एक अहम स्तंभ है। भारत मॉरिशस के एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन में सहयोग दे रहा है। मॉरिशस को 100 इलेक्ट्रिक बसें दी जा रही हैं, जिसमें से 10 पहुंच चुकी है। ऊर्जा के क्षेत्र में संपन्न हुए कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव पार्टनरशिप समझौते से इसे और बल मिलेगा। हमने तमारिन फॉल्स में 17.5 मेगावाट का फ्लोटिंग सोलर पावर प्लांट के निर्माण में सहयोग देने का निर्णय लिया है।
Mauritius Prime Minister Dr. Naveen Chandra Ramagoolam lauded India's long-standing support and partnership with Mauritius, stating that the country has benefited immensely from India's generous assistance and expertise in various sectors over the years.
Beyond bilateral issues, Prime Minister Modi and I have held deep exchanges on pressing global challenges. As I said, also maritime security, but also climate change, and we will continue to work together. These discussions have culminated in the signing, you've just said, of several memoranda of understanding in the fields of community development, power, energy, science and technology, research, education, marine science and space research, which will guide and strengthen our cooperations in the years ahead. Another highlight has been the high-level business meeting held 2 days ago in Mumbai, which brought together the captains of industry, and it was very fruitful because there's eagerness, because I've told them that don't forget we have preferential access to a lot of markets in Africa. We are a member of SADC, we are a member of COMESA, and we are a member of the African Union. But especially with SADC, there's a lot of double taxation agreement treaties which India business people can also benefit. It will be a win-win situation.
India and Mauritius have taken a decisive step to deepen their partnership. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri announced that a special economic package will be extended to Mauritius with a key focus on the development of Port Louis.
Our decision to offer a special economic package to Mauritius. This is a package that covers multiple elements. It includes the development of the port of Port Louis, development and assistance for surveillance of the Chagos Marine Protected Area, blended financial assistance in the form of grants and lines of credit. The package will also contribute to safeguarding the waters around Mauritius and in the broader region, and Government of India will also extend budgetary assistance in the current financial year amounting to $25 million.
On trade, Misri confirmed that both the countries have already reached an understanding to settle transactions in local currencies. Discussions between the central banks are now underway to operationalize the move.
This is something on which an understanding has already been arrived at, but now at this stage there are discussions going on between the central banks of the two countries, because the appropriate accounts, the Nostro and Vostro accounts, have to be opened up in the banks. So the central banks on the two sides are discussing the technical aspects, and we expect that the understanding on trade in local currencies will be made operational very soon as the operational issues are dealt with.
So these talks between India and Mauritius were held in Varanasi, which is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's constituency. So earlier upon arrival, Prime Minister Modi held a roadshow in Varanasi. Upon his arrival, Prime Minister Modi received a rousing welcome. People showered flower petals on the Prime Minister's carcade with great enthusiasm. Indian diplomat Kshitij Tyagi delivered a sharp response to Switzerland at the 5th meeting of the 60th session of the UN Human Rights Council, calling its comments on India surprising, shallow and ill-informed. India's remarks came a day after Switzerland called on India to take effective measures to protect the minorities and uphold the right to freedom of expression and the freedom of media in the country. Tyagi directed Switzerland to focus on its own domestic challenges, pointing to issues such as racism, systematic discrimination and xenophobia.
We would also like to respond to the surprising, shallow and ill-informed remarks made by Switzerland, a close friend and partner. As it holds the UNHRC presidency, it is all the more important for Switzerland to avoid wasting the Council's time with narratives that are blatantly false and do not do justice to the reality of India. Instead, it should focus on its own challenges, such as racism, systematic discrimination and xenophobia. As the world's largest, most diverse and vibrant democracy, with a civilizational embrace of pluralism, India remains ready to help Switzerland address these concerns.
On to Nepal now. Talks are underway between Nepal's President Ramachandra Paudel, Nepali Army Chief Ashok Raj Sikdel and representatives of the Gen Z youth movement on Thursday. President of Nepal Ramachandra Paudel said that he is making every possible effort to address the country's ongoing challenges from within the constitutional boundary. In a statement issued today, the President said he is focused on identifying constitutional solutions to the current crisis with an emphasis on preserving democracy and ensuring law and order in the country. The key demands of the protesters include establishment of a system for directly elected executives, the election of federal parliament members from the Gen Z generation, and the investigation of assets of all officials who've held public office since 1989. The meeting is also focused on judicial probes into corruption cases and the need to make arrangements to prevent MPs from becoming ministers. Based on the security situation, the Nepali army informed that the prohibitory order and curfew have been extended in the Kathmandu Valley districts. These include Kathmandu, Lalitpur and Bhaktapur districts until 6 a.m. on Bhadra 27, 2082, that is Friday, September 12th. However, essential service vehicles and institutions can operate. To make people's lives easier, Nepali army have urged people to work in small groups, although curfew will be off from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the morning and 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. in the evening on Thursday to manage daily necessities. On to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which is escalating beyond borders. Poland has shot down Russian drones on Wednesday. 19 drones were intercepted in the Polish airspace early on Tuesday that are said to be flying after completing a mission in western Ukraine. US, France, Germany, Canada, EU condemned Russia over the drone incursion, calling it a deliberate and unprecedented provocation. However, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk emphasized the importance of allied commitments and modernizing Poland's air force during a visit to a military base, Lutsk, on Thursday.
I'm convinced that in some sense this lesson from last night should be a very strong argument for you, not only on your behalf, but also for Poland in our talks with all allies. I will do everything I can. I will bend over backwards to ensure this.
Reacting to the developments, Kremlin on Thursday dismissed statements by Warsaw and other European countries. Kremlin spokesman said Moscow would not be issuing new comments on the situation. Meanwhile, Slovenia, Denmark, Greece, France and Britain have called for an urgent UN Security Council meeting on these alleged Russian drone incursions into Polish airspace on Friday. Shifting focus to the United States now. U.S. State Police of Utah and federal agents were hunting on Thursday for a shooter who killed conservative activist Charlie Kirk at a university event in Utah in an attack. The suspect likely fired from a rooftop at a significant distance at an event of 3,000 people. The attack has sparked fears of worsening political violence in the United States. President Donald Trump lashed out after the shooting of 31-year-old Kirk. Trump vowed to crack down on those responsible for what he described as a dark moment for America.
Fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. This is a dark moment for America.
Kirk was one of the most prominent pro-Trump activists and conservative media personalities in the United States. He has garnered millions of fans and co-founded Turning Point USA, an organization that advocates for conservative politics on high school and university campuses, in 2012. The killing was the latest in a series of attacks on U.S. political figures, including 2 assassination attempts of Donald Trump last year. U.S. President Donald Trump ordered U.S. flags to be flown at half-staff to honor Charlie Kirk in what the governor described as a political assassination. The U.S. House of Representatives held a moment of silence on the House floor for Charlie Kirk. The silence did not last long, though, as an argument broke out on the floor soon after the moment ended, with members shouting at one another. House Speaker Mike Johnson called Kirk's shooting detestable, condemning political violence.
This is detestable, what's happened. Political violence has become all too common in American society, and this is not who we are. It violates the core principles of our country, our Judeo-Christian heritage, our civil society, our American way of life, and it must stop. We need every political figure, we need everyone who has a platform to say this loudly and clearly. We can settle disagreements and disputes in a civil manner, and political violence must be called out, and it has to stop.
Condemnations of the shooting of Charlie Kirk came from across political spectrum. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, former U.S. President Joe Biden, former U.S. President Barack Obama, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio condemned the shooting. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni all expressed condolences on the tragic death of Charlie Kirk. The leaders warned of the harms of politically motivated violence after the assassination of right-wing activist and Trump ally Charlie Kirk. Obesity is on the rise in India. By 2030, 27 million children in India would be obese, says the UNICEF. At the Media Roundtable on Healthy Diet organized in New Delhi, DD India's Vishal Barrister spoke to the nutrition chief at the UNICEF to find out more.
Obesity is on the rise in India, and I have with me the Chief of Nutrition, UNICEF India. Let's talk to her and find out what are their findings. Mary, when we talk about India as a country, obesity is on the rise. So what does the report say?
The report says that obesity in children 5 to 19 years old is really rising, and we have more children obese in the world than children who have underweight. The report mentions also that the food industry is a leading factor and behind this increase. The Prime Minister, in his Independence Day speech from the Red Fort, he did mention and also raise concern about this issue. You are in touch with the government. What is your impression of India's government seriousness about this issue? The government is very serious. The Prime Minister already highlighted that he would like really much to see the obesity and overweight to decrease in India. He requested also population to eat less fat. There are measures that are being taken by government, like the Eat Right schools, like the front of pack labeling that is in workout by the FSSAI. There are some other legal measures that have been considered, that are being considered. We talk about the figures. What does the figure say as far as the percentage of obese children in India, and also in comparison to the global figures? With the old data that are available, we know that about 4 million children had obesity at that time. And by 2030, this may increase a bit up to 25, 27 million, so 7 times what was present in 2021. The time to act is now. With cameraman Kalra and Srinivas in Delhi, this is Vishal Barrister for TT India.
Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry organized a 2-day Global Leadership Conclave, Leads 2025, on the theme Collaborations for Growth in a Transformative World. The event brought together industry leaders, policymakers and innovators to chart strategies for sustainable global partnerships. Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Bhupinder Yadav, delivered the ministerial address highlighting India's vision for green growth and collaborative progress.
I believe green financing is one of the best examples of collaborative growth in a transformative world. Governments, businesses, and all stakeholders need to have a collaborative approach to move ahead in a world faced with geopolitical shifts, technological advancement, and a rising threat to a planet Earth.
India's Minister for Culture and Tourism, Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, inaugurated the historic 3-day international conference on reclaiming India's knowledge legacy through manuscript heritage in New Delhi on Thursday. The conference is launched as part of the Gyan Bharatam mission launch under the aegis of the Culture Ministry. The landmark conference is witnessing global scholars, cultural practitioners, academicians, national and international delegates coming together under one roof to share and dispense knowledge for their culture and tradition. The minister also witnessed an exhibition themed Timeless Journey of Manuscripts. The exhibition showcased the knowledge contained in the manuscriptural heritage of India. For a long time now, reports from Germany were about the country's economic troubles and what the government is planning to do about it. Now a round of initiatives actually have made it through Parliament. Lars Holte is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin now on the story. Lars, hi, thank you for being with us. What can you tell us about what could help the government in putting its act together as far as economy is concerned?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, isn't that good news that every once in a while we can talk not about what the government is planning to do, but what it has actually put together. There's a few initiatives to strengthen the German economy that have actually now made it through Parliament. And no doubt the most important one concerns high energy prices. Germans have suffered from high energy prices ever since Russia started its war against Ukraine. That's because up to the war, Germany had received large amounts of natural gas from Russia at cheap rates. That worked very well for the German industry, but once the war started, with Western states sanctioning Russia and Germany no longer buying gas from there, energy prices shot up. Now, starting in 2026, the government will make energy cheaper again by lowering energy taxes. However, this is only for industry and agriculture. And while some 600,000 companies will actually benefit, consumers won't. And that's been the source of some debate already. After all, consumers are paying more for energy too, and they want some relief as well. However, what the government is doing is already costing around 3 billion euros a year. So it's not that easy to just broaden this initiative.
Okay, high energy prices were high on the list of problems. So what else is the government doing to help the economy?
Yes, another item very high on the list of German industrial firms was the supply chain law that many said needed some reform. And that is happening now too. Now we need to take a step back to understand German companies, much like others around the world, have become a lot more aware of problematic supply chains where sometimes horrendous working conditions, child labor, and even slavery played a role in a company's low prices for supplies they received from around the world. Of course, companies want to clean up these supply chains. The problem, documentation so far has been messy. Experts have long said that the bureaucratic effort going into guaranteeing clean supply chains was too much to handle for especially small and mid-sized companies.
Thank you, Lars Holte. And let's now bring you the exclusive shots of Prime Minister Narendra Modi visiting the flood-affected areas in Uttarakhand. He is in Uttarakhand's capital Dehradun for an aerial survey. He is currently interacting with the victims. So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi travelled from Varanasi after holding bilateral talks with his Mauritius counterpart, Dr. Naveen Chandra Ramagulam. Prime Minister Narendra Modi a short while ago took aerial survey of the flood-affected areas of Himachal Pradesh This was earlier actually. Prime Minister took aerial survey of flood affected areas of Himachal Pradesh and Punjab on Tuesday and chaired a high level review meeting. And at present he is in Uttarakhand's capital Dehradun for an aerial survey of the flood affected areas. When Prime Minister on Tuesday visited Himachal Pradesh and Punjab, he announced an ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees to the next of kin of the deceased and 50,000 to the seriously injured in the floods and natural calamity for both the states. And he announced financial assistance of 1,600 crore rupees for Punjab and 12,000 crore rupees, which is in addition to the 12,000 crore rupees already in the state's kitty, while 1,500 crores were assigned for financial assistance for flood and rain affected areas in Himachal Pradesh. So Prime Minister Modi chairing a review meeting in Dehradun. Right now he is assessing the progress of relief and rehabilitation efforts in Uttarakhand. So India's northern belt has witnessed above normal monsoon in the last few days. So Punjab bore the brunt of it with the extreme floods, and so did Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. So the 2025 Uttarakhand flash floods occurred in Uttarkashi. The disaster killed a lot of people, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi today visiting the flood affected areas. He has undertaken an aerial survey of the regions to assess the extent of damage, and in some minutes from now he also will chair a high level review meeting with state and central officials to evaluate the progress of relief and rehabilitation efforts. Elaborate security arrangements have been made for Prime Minister's visit. Uttarakhand has been reeling under severe monsoon-triggered disasters for the past few months. We have seen incidents of cloudbursts in Uttarkashi, landslides, flash floods that have left behind widespread destruction in Uttarakhand. The calamities have claimed several lives, injured thousands, and caused heavy damage to infrastructure. So like we told you, this is the high-level review meeting being chaired by the being chaired by Prime Minister Modi with the officials of the NDRF, National Disaster Response Force, and State Disaster Response Force. We see personnel of the police and the SDRF and NDRF in attendance, interacting with the Prime Minister on the extent of damage caused in Uttarakhand due to the landslides and floods, and the relief and rehabilitation work carried thereafter. So according to some government estimates, intense rainfall during the months of August and September have inflicted losses estimated at around 5,000 crore rupees for the state. Roads, schools and power lines were among the worst hit, crippling multiple districts. Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacting with the victims, with the state machinery here to be able to coordinate such disasters better, take the learnings from here on to implement them to minimize the casualties in such disasters. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has travelled from Varanasi, where he held a high-level meeting with his Mauritian counterpart Naveen Chandra Ramagulam. And the meeting in the ancient city of Varanasi concluded in the signing of 4 MOUs. And thereafter, Prime Minister Modi took no time to fly to Uttarakhand. These are his series of visits to the flood-affected states of northern India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviewing the relief and rehabilitation work in the aftermath of these deadly landslides, disasters in the northern belt of the country. So Uttarakhand is grappling with a surge in natural disasters this August and September, resulting in fatalities, missing persons and widespread disruption. Cloudbursts, floods, landslides have been exacerbated by climate change and unregulated construction in the fragile Himalayan region. Experts emphasize the urgent need for stricter regulations, improved warning systems, and sustainable development to mitigate future crises. So the landslides and cloudbursts in August left several people dead and missing, cutting off several villages in Uttarakhand. A cloudburst in Dharali, Uttarkashi on August 5th triggered flash floods and debris flows that buried houses. On August 23rd, floods in Dharali, Chamoli claimed lives of more people. In between, a landslide dammed the Yamuna near Sayana Chhati, submerging hotels, cutting off several settlements. So experts say that the repeated destruction highlighted a dangerous mix of climate change, geological fragility, and unregulated construction. We must also share with you that the Himalayas are the youngest mountain chain in the world, inherently prone to landslides, erosion, and seismic activity. The sensitive natural features of Uttarakhand are being exacerbated by high precipitation. Climate change has only amplified these natural vulnerabilities. Warmer air holds moisture, more moisture, leading to sudden cloudbursts and intense rain. Tourism-driven construction has filled the floodplains with concrete structures. In Dharali, the worst-hit homes were built on the river's alluvial fan, a zone avoided by previous generations. So experts say that Uttarakhand urgently needs a course correction. What we need is stricter environmental regulation, better disaster warning systems, and integration of local wisdom with scientific planning. So if current trends continued, every monsoon in Uttarakhand would bring more destruction, and the state's natural beauty would keep masking a deepening crisis. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, for the very reason, undertaking the aerial survey of the flood-affected areas and interacting with the flood victims, with the state machinery, the police forces, the State Disaster Response Force, National Disaster Response Force personnel, and trying to gauge the relief efforts undertaken, the problems that these people encountered in relief missions. Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami also accompanying the Prime Minister. This is happening in Dehradun, the capital of Uttarakhand. So these are the visuals of the high-level review meeting that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is conducting in Uttarakhand. We see the entire state machinery with the Prime Minister here, apprising him of the recent developments of landslides, cloudbursts in the state. Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami also part of this meeting. The state has faced months of monsoon-triggered disasters, including cloudbursts, landslides and flash floods, leaving widespread destruction. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairing this high-level meeting to assess the damage and guide further relief and rehabilitation efforts across the region. So the trend is dangerous. We have seen various instances of cloudbursts in India's northern hill stations, particularly in the Himalayan states of Uttarakhand, Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh. Multiple floods during the peak of the Hindu pilgrimage season caused widespread destruction and loss of life. Punjab has suffered some of its worst floods in recent years as swollen rivers submerged villages and farmland. Several villages in Uttarakhand saw floods and cloudbursts. Jammu region has been experiencing record levels of rainfall, resulting in landslides. So the actual drivers of these terrible natural disasters remain uncertain, but of course it's a dangerous mix of climate change, unregulated activity in the mountainous areas, so what is needed is sustainable development to mitigate the future crises. Of course, this will be the agenda of the meeting with the Prime Minister. But right now, the focus is on providing relief and rehabilitation, reconstructions of the damaged infrastructure in the mountainous terrain so that life returns to normal. The Himalayan region is inherently geologically unstable. Climate change and unplanned development such as settlement expansion and road construction in ecologically fragile zones further exacerbate these natural disasters. Past disasters have revealed how construction without planning deepens these crises. In 2021, a chunk of glacier broke off and triggered a flood that destroyed 2 hydropower projects in Chamoli. In Kedarnath, structures on riverbeds and landslide-prone slopes worsened the scale of the 2013 tragedy. Similar risks are now visible across Chamoli, Rudraprayag and Uttarkashi in Uttarakhand. Prime Minister right now in Dehradun doing a SWOT analysis of the recent operation. Assessing the progress of relief and rehabilitation efforts. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi, before this high-level review meeting, undertook an aerial survey of the disaster and flood-hit areas around 4, and at around 5 p.m. he has held a high-level review meeting with state officials to discuss the relief and rehabilitation efforts. Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami is in attendance and has highlighted Prime Minister's deep connection with Uttarakhand. He also highlighted this connection on his social media platform. He said Prime Minister Narendra Modi has special affection for Uttarakhand. This is why during this difficult time of disaster, the state has continuously received his unwavering support and guidance. And his arrival further strengthens the disaster relief efforts in Uttarakhand. So as we were telling you, Uttarakhand has suffered extensive damage due to excessive rainfall and widespread flooding in recent months. So there is a strong expectation that the central government will provide a substantial economic package to the state for disaster relief, rescue, reconstruction and rehabilitation. Jamaican sprint legend Usain Bolt has warned that Aussie teen sensation Gout, that translates teenage talent into the world and Olympic titles, is a tough process. Gout has earned comparisons with Jamaican sprinting great after a string of fast times over the last year. Fans in Australia have already called him as favourites to win the gold on home soil at the 2032 Brisbane Olympics. Bolt said there was no doubt the 17-year-old has immense talent, but that was not enough to shine in major competitions.
Very talented. The times he's running now, and he's really been doing well. That's something that you love to see, because you want athletes to do well, and you want the sports. The more athletes do well, the bigger the sports is. And I'm always a supporter of track and field getting bigger and doing bigger things. So if he continues on this track, it's going to be good, but it's all about getting everything right. You know what I mean? It's never just easy. It's always easier when you're younger, because I was there. I used to do great things when I was young, but the transition to senior from junior is always tougher.
Bangladesh is set to begin their Asia Cup campaign against a struggling Hong Kong side on Thursday. Hong Kong's lack of exposure was evident in their opening outing against Afghanistan on Tuesday. Afghanistan piled on a score of 188. In response, Hong Kong scored just 94 runs for the loss of 9 wickets in 20 overs. Bangladesh will be confident heading into the continental tournament, having won 4 of their last 5 T20s. However, Bangladesh will be cautious as well, as Hong Kong upset them in the T20 World Cup in 2014 in Chittagong. In badminton, India's top men's doubles pair of Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty advanced to the quarterfinals of the Hong Kong Open. The Indian pair edged past Thailand's P. Sukhpun and Pakapon in a 63-minute battle. The former world number 1 duo bounced back from a first game loss to outplay the unseeded Thai pair 18-21, 21-15, 21-11. Satvik and Chirag, fresh from their World Championship bronze in Paris, will next face Malaysia's Junaidi, Aarti and Roy King Yap. Seasoned Indian boxer Pooja Rani fought hard for the World Championship medal as she secured a scrappy win over Emilia Korteska of Poland to move to the women's 80 kg semi-finals. Pooja relied on her vast experience to edge past teenager Korteska 3-2 in the quarterfinals. The 80 kg is a non-Olympic weight category and features 12 boxers in the ongoing competition. With the victory, she joined Jasmine Lemboria and Nupur Shioran in assuring India of medals at this edition of the tournament. Nupur secured a 4-1 win over Uzbekistan's Sotemboeva in the women's 80-plus kg quarterfinals. Former world record holder Eliud Kipchoge and Olympic champion Sifan Hassan are set to make their New York City Marathon debut in November. The pair headlined the Sydney Marathon last month, with the Dutch woman completing the race in 18 minutes and 22 seconds. Hassan had finished third in London earlier this year, while Olympic champion Kipchoge has not won a marathon since his 11th major triumph in Berlin 2 years ago. Hassan had become the first person to run a marathon in under 2 hours in 2019. However, his attempt was not recognized as an official record, as it did not adhere to World Athletics rules. New York is the only marathon major that Kipchoge has not run before. 24 years ago, on this day in 2001, the whole world witnessed a scene that changed history. A series of attacks were carried out in New York's World Trade Center, the Pentagon and Pennsylvania by Al-Qaeda terrorists using hijacked planes, in which about 3,000 people were killed. This terrorist incident changed the security system of not only America, but the entire world forever.
These pictures bring back the horrific memories of the most heinous and unforgettable terrorist attacks in the history of terror attacks, with the images indeed etched in the memories of people worldwide. On 11th of September 2001, small teams of suicide attackers seized 4 planes flying over the eastern US and crashed them into 2 New York skyscrapers, killing around 3,000 people. At 8:46 a.m., first flights crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. 17 minutes later, at 9:03 a.m., the second one hit the South Tower. The attacks were carried out by 19 terrorists affiliated with terrorist group Al-Qaeda. The third plane destroyed the western face of the Pentagon, the giant headquarters of the U.S. military, while the fourth was crashed in a field in Pennsylvania after passengers fought back. The Twin Towers were set on fire, trapping people on the upper floors and enveloping the New York City in smoke. People started jumping from the windows of the Twin Towers to save their lives, while some people started running down the stairs to save themselves. In less than 2 hours, both 110-story towers collapsed in massive clouds of dust. In the aftermath of the devastating attack, a total of 2,996 people died, including 265 passengers in 4 planes. 2,606 people died near the Twin Towers, while 125 people died in the Pentagon. People from about 90 countries died in this terrorist attack. The September 11th attacks led to a significant shift in global politics, security measures, and international relations. The world realized for the first time how deep and destructive the impact of terrorism can be. Al-Qaeda's leader Osama bin Laden was behind this attack. Less than a month after the attacks, former President George W. Bush-led U.S. government attacked the areas of Afghanistan that had turned into the stronghold of Al-Qaeda. However, it was not until 2011 that U.S. troops finally located and killed bin Laden in Abbottabad, Pakistan. The terrorist strike led to the tightening of the flight safety around the world in the years following the 9/11 attacks. It took more than 8 months to clean up Ground Zero, the site of the fallen Twin Towers. Even today, thousands of people reach Ground Zero in New York to pay tribute to the martyrs. Bureau Report, DD India.
Launching its latest spring collection 2026 a day ahead of the New York Fashion Week, 85-year-old American fashion icon Ralph Lauren was ready to woo its customers with the new collection in hues of black and white. Depicting strength and sensuality, the collection also displayed its classics, the cargo-like tops and overalls. New York Fashion Week runs from September 11th till September 16th with 60 brands showcasing their debuting collections. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and the world on our DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.